Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I am going to discuss and show you how we create the CSS selector for your automation test script, how you will create CSS selector for the Selenium WebDriver. So if you've gone through this tutorial from at the end, definitely you will be good in the CSS selector. So what I'm going to discuss in this, I'm going to discuss the basic syntax of the CSS selector, IDs and classes, class selectors, combination, substrings match, child descendant, pseudo class child, pseudo class type of child, advantage and disadvantage. These we will discuss in this tutorial. So what is the CSS selector? A CSS selector is a string representation of different HTML tags, classes, attribute, and ID. So we are creating some strings by using the HTML tags, classes, attributes, and ID to make a CSS selector. So there are some set of rules. We will follow that and then we will create CSS selector. It is an expression that lets us uniquely identify web elements. Next, here you can see the basic syntax of the CSS selector. So first, we need to give the tag name. Then in the square bracket, attribute equal to value we need to put, right? As example, you can see the input ID equal to email. So it means this will identify the input which ID is email. In the next, I am using the placeholder attribute and the value. In the next, we have button data test ID, and there is a ID. You can see the royal login button. Apart from these, we can directly use the ID value by using the has and the class by using the dot. Okay, we can do. So we will learn this thing also. So let's see how we create the CSS selector. Like here we have one facebook.com application. So if I want to create the CSS selector of this email field, then how we do that? So just right click, inspect, okay, mouse move to the field. Now here we can use the attribute, right? So first let's press Ctrl F to open this input field, and here we have input, okay, and let's move again. So here we have some attributes. So suppose that now I'm going to use the name attribute. So in that case, I can put here square bracket and this value. You can see this is highlighted. We can also use other attribute, like if I want to use the placeholder value. So this is the email address or phone number. Let me copy this. Copy, Ctrl F, input, and then put the attribute value. Right. Similar type, we can use the other attribute ID, name, data, which will help us to create a unique locator. So here next, IDs, ID class CSS selectors. How we use the ID directly or class directly to find out element locators. So as in the screen, you can see first we need to put the tag, then slash, and then ID value. Similar type for class, we are using tag dot class value. And as example, you can see the input has email, input has pass. So for two fields, I created this. Similar type for the tag, you can see div. This is the div, table responsive. I have given this class ID. And then again, table dot table. If you have multiple CSS, multiple class value, then we can separate all those class by using dot. Like this is the table. So you can see the table, and then it has a two class. One is the table, second is the table padded. There is a space. So it means there are two classes. So we can use dot table again, dot table padded. So in this way, we can create CSS selector by using the ID and class. Let's see from the application how we create. So here for the this input field, right? Let's see ID. So this is the ID. So this ID directly we can use to create the locator. We can put has. So input means tag name is optional. We can remove or we can put. When we are not using the tag, so it will look any element whose ID is email. But if we are putting the tag, it means it will find the only the input tag which ID is email ID. Okay. If I go with the other field, the password field, let's see. Here we have pass ID. So this ID we can pass like this. Next, if I want to create the login button, let's see. Do we have any ID? Yes, we have ID, but maybe this is a dynamic, so we can ignore this. But if we want to create, just put the ID and this is the button. So use the button tag. You can see it's work. Now, if we look the classes, let's look in this application where we have more classes. Like we want to get the value of this total balance. So it has class. So let's copy this class value, Control F, and use the dot, right? So three elements we can find by using this dot class, right? All these three classes balance. Tag name is div, so we can use the tag name dot balance ID. So balance value, this is the class name. So we can use the div dot balance value. This is the class value. So in that case, it will find all the divs which class is a balance value. Okay, so in this way, we can use the ID and class value to create the CSS selector. Let's move the next. The combination means where we can use the classes, values, and attribute. Also we can use the class as well as the ID. We can use the class multiple attributes. Okay, so these combination we can use to create the CSS selector. Like one combination I mentioned here, where first we need to put the tag name, then class value, and for same elements we can also use the attribute and its value. For example, input dot input text name equal to email ID. So two things I am using, class name as well as the name attribute. So if you look in this highlighted code, here name is a email. So I am using this as a attribute value. And if I look the class, in the class, you can see the input text is available. So by using the class and name, we can identify this element. Next, we have tag, ID value, and then attribute. Similar type the class, we can also use the ID value along with the other attributes, right? Like here you can see the input, tag name, email, this is the ID, and then name is also attribute. So name attribute using the ID using and then tag. So by using these, we can create the element locators. Next combinations, tag name, we have ID and class, right? We can use the ID and class without any space. So you can see the input has email, because email is ID, then dot input text. Input text is the class name, class value. We can also use other combination, ID, class value, and then attribute value, attribute and value. So three combination we can use to create the locators. Okay, so let's see how we create in the application. Now this is the email input field, right? So here we can use the ID. So let's copy this, use the ID. And if I want to use the other attribute like name equal to email, okay, we need to close the square bracket here. Oh no. So this is not button, this is the input. Okay. Now I'm using here ID as well as the attribute combination. If we want to the class, then we can use here dot input text, right? So by using the class value and the attribute, we can uniquely create the element locators. Other way, we can use the class and then we can use the ID. Both combination we can also use. You can see this is highlighted. Next, we can use the class attribute, class ID, and then we can also use the attribute like name equal to email. Any attribute we can use. So now this is the combination where we have we can use multiples things like class, ID, and attribute. We can also use the two attributes to create the locators. Like I'm going to use this placeholder value along with the name. So two attributes also possible. First attribute, then second attribute, put in different square bracket. Here name equal to email, right? So it's created the locators. So in this way, we can create the locators. In this way, we can create a CSS selector by using multiple attributes. Next is a substring match. Okay, substring matches is similar like we are using in a XPath. It starts with, contains, and ends with. This is also working similar way. So here we can create element locators by using the matches. So there are some symbols we can use like this till, dollar, and next one asterisk. So when we are using this symbol till, then it means it will check your strings start with. Like we have in one example here, input using the placeholder value using till equal to putting the email address double quotes. So it will find the element, input element whose placeholder value starts with the email ID. So here you can see it started with the email ID. Similar type, if we are using dollar, dollar will check the end of the strings. Like this placeholders ends with the 4 numbers, right? So it will, this is working. If we want to check the partial text of the value of any attribute value, then we can use asterisk. Like here you can see the as input placeholder asterisk equal to address or phone number I'm using. So this address phone numbers should be exist in the string, in the value, maybe the starting, beginning, at the end, anywhere this, if this combination will found, it will find the element locators. Now let's see in the applications. Here we have locators, right? Let me remove this. This is fine, but now we want to use the starts with. Maybe some value in the strings is dynamic, our string is very large, we want to put some partial which will help us to give the uniqueness. So we can use the symbol this, so it will represent the start. So if I remove now these, right, our locator will work. So this will represent the start. Similar type, if I want to use the dollar, so dollar will represent end with, ends with. Now this is not finding, right? You can see, but if I put here a phone number or numbers, right? You can see it's working because this value, placeholder value, ends with the numbers. So that's why it's working. Okay. Now we can use asterisk to find the contains the string like this. So I'm using asterisk. So any part of the strings we can remove like this. Number is also removing, right? So this is working because when we are passing the asterisk, then it will check this complete value is available in the placeholder value or not. If this is available, then it will give you the locators. Okay. Now, next, child descendant. Okay. Child descendant, basically here we are looking parent, then going to the child label. Like we are using the in the XPath, we are using single slash and double slash to jump into the child as well as the child and subchilds. Same way we can use here. If we want to go direct child, then this is symbol tag has attribute name. Okay, we can use also here ID or something. Okay, then there is this greater than symbol. Okay, it means the first element is a parent and second is the direct child of the element. Like here we have div class valence value. You can see here class valence value. Now its child has span. So I go to the span using this greater than symbol. Then again in the next span to find out the percentage 7. So use the greater than and span. Now it will give us the element locators of the span. Next we have descendant, child and subchild, right? Sometimes we want to skip the some children's, right? We want to go either child or subchild, then directly we can put here the space. There is no greater symbol. It means the first tag is parent and the second tag is either child or subchild. Where it found, it will give you the result. Like here div class balance value we have. So balance value, this is the class, this is the div, and you can see the I is just under another span that is a child of this div. So I'm not using here greater than symbol, so it will directly find this I which is as a subchild. So this will work both child as well as the subchild, where it will find the first element. Also we can find the next sibling that is adjacent. In that case we have tag, we can put here ID and then attribute value plus tag, and the ID we can put our attribute value. So this is the syntax just, but main thing we can use the plus symbol which will go next to the sibling, next sibling. Like here I created the locators first part. This is the div. Here div balance value, I am using plus div. It means it will find the next siblings of this element, this balance value element. So now this is the next is the div class balance link, this element found. So we can create a relatively locators by using some siblings, but it will not go backside, it will go the next sibling only. Like here balance title is also available. So if we are using balance value, so we cannot go back in the balance title, we can go in the next siblings. Let's see how we use this in the application. Right click here. So this is the balance title. Now if I want to go to these two siblings, find the next siblings, so we can use here a div, put in square bracket, and if I use the plus div, so it will give us the two result, three giving. Okay, one is also here. So this is giving the next sibling. Okay, next sibling of the element. Now if I use this balance value, then it will go to the balance link. If I use this, so next we have a pseudo class like a child, pseudo class child. By using this approach, we can find child of any element. So you can see it will give us the first child. Syntax is tag. We can use has ID value, or we can use here some class, other attribute like square bracket attribute and value. And then this is the first child. So if we are using first child, then it will give us the first child of this element. Okay, like example, I use here the t body tr, then using nth child passing the 1, right? So it will go to the first child, the first tr. We are using nth child 1. I will also show this example. Now next td. So how many td we have here? So we have total 5 tds, but if we are using the first td colon first child, so it will give you the under the tr first child, like this. Similar type, if we want to get the last child of the parent, so this is the t body tr nth child 1, here I am using, and then td last child, so it will give you the last child of the tr. Next, we can pass the nth child by, we can pass the index number. Like suppose that under the tr we want to get the fourth child, or maybe the third child, second child, any child we want, then here we can use the approach nth child and we can pass the index number. Like here t body tr, so there are multiple trs are available. If we are using nth child 1 in the passing the index 1, it will highlight the first tr. Then again we have td colon nth child 4, so it will go the fourth td. You can see here 1 2 3 4, so it's highlighted the fourth child. So next is the select by index from the last. When we directly pass the child index, nth child, I am passing the index, then it's giving the index position from the top. But we can also find the element from the last. Like example here, we need to pass the nth last child, pass the index number. Here we are passing here the td nth last child 2, so it will give you the second last element, second last td, like you can see here. Let's see this in the application. Okay, so this is the table you can see. So if I go this table, we have here t body and multiple trs are available. So let's use this control f, t body, and I'm using the greater than to go to the direct child, and then tr. So it's giving you, so it's giving 1 of 6 record. If we want to go the any number of childs, like nth child passing here 2, so in that case it will highlight the second child. We can also go the last tr, first td, so by using the first child. Okay, first child, pass the colon first child, it will highlight the first child. And okay, then if we want to go with the last child, so just use the last child, it will highlight to the last child. Okay, if we go from the last nth last child, pass the index number, like passing the 3, so it give you the last third child. If I pass here the 2, it will give us the last second child. If I pass the 1, it means this is the last child. So we can use nth last child, pass the index, nth, we can use nth child, which give you locator from the beginning, and we can pass here the first child as well as the last child to find out the element locator of the first and last. So here we have pseudo class type of child, right? Last in the previous we learned the child, nth child, type of child, but here we are getting the going to discuss type of child. In the type of child, we will put tag name and then value tag id value. So this id value we can replace by using the attribute or attribute combinations, attribute and value we can replace with the slash also. We can also replace by with the class like dot class. And then this is important, first of type. Okay, let's see. If I use here first of type, okay, you can see it's giving. because here it's checking the tag name as well as the position. So now T body is the, if we calculate the T body here, so this is the first tag of the T body. This is the first child, but if we look the T body in the table child, so this is the T body, that is first child. So it is looking the T body tag name as well as the child. So in under this table, this body is the first child of the table, right? T head is a different type. T body is a different type. So here it's checking the type as well as the child. Now, if I use here last of type, you can see same T body is highlighted. Now we can pass here the also the position nth of type and then pass the value. So first one. Okay, here we have multiple elements, right? One child, 2, 3. Let's see. So this is the div dot element. Okay. Now, if I use here div nth type of so if I use nth type nth of type passing one, so this is the first div. So here in the nth type, it's checking the type as well as the child. So this div is the first child of under this div. Now if we go with the first child, so let's first of type. Okay, so this div we are getting. If we if I put here last type, last of type, okay, you can see this is the last one. If I put here the index nth, like nth last type of, and I'm passing here index, so this is the first one, and if I go here, this is the second one. This is the second child from the last, but if we are using the type, so this is first div and this is the second div. Okay, that's why we are getting here second. So nth type, it will check both the div, tag name as well as the position. We have first of type, which will give you the first child. Similar type, if we are using the last of type, it will give you the last element. It will check the type as well as the position. So nth child, we can pass nth of type, then pass the index. Okay, and it will give you the nth position. And we can also get the last. Okay, so now if I use here nth of type, we are passing the index. So this is the second child, which is a div under this div. So this is the first div and this is the second div. Similar type, if I use the h6, right? So this is the second h6, third child, but type is s6, type is second. If I use here 1, it will highlight the first s6 child of div tag. Okay, so let's move on the next. Now, what is the advantage here of the CSS selectors? So CSS selector typically offers a better, faster, and more reliable performance than XPath. If we compare this with the XPath, so CSS selector is a better, faster, like during execution, it will go fast and more reliable performance. CSS selector are compatible with all modern browsers, means it will support with all the modern browsers. It is necessary to use the CSS selector when we are using JS executor. So if we are using the JS executor, then we need to use this. Okay, CSS selector, XPath will not work in that case. Like if we are using the js.execute method passing the element locator, then we need to create the CSS selector. All the JS-based test framework like Cypress use the CSS selector. So mostly in the Cypress-based framework, by default, they are using the XPath CSS selectors, and they are also recommending to use the CSS selector. Disadvantage: CSS is unidirectional. It allows node to traversal from the parent to child only. So we can traverse in the CSS selector from the parent to child. We cannot go back from child to parent like we were doing in the XPath. So this is one disadvantage. When there are complex scenario, it is difficult to construct as locators. CSS selector don't provide a method to handle complex element locators like we are doing in the XPath access methods. We cannot construct the selector based on visible text. So when we are using the XPath, then we can create XPath by using the visible text. But in the CSS selector, this will not support. Thanks for watching the video. And if you have any query, leave a comment. And if you like the tutorial, click on the like button, subscribe the channel, and share this tutorial to your friends and colleagues. And let's meet in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching the video.